Hi, this is Jake West from English 105, and today in this podcast we're going to be talking about how to improve quickly on guitar. And this is a topic that's been very important to me. I've been playing guitar for about 8 years now, and there have been a lot of times in my life where I've either improved a lot and felt really good about it, or plateaued and kind of just not really improved, and that's really demoralizing for my own playing. And today I have a special guest with me, my friend Daniel Work.
Hello, everybody.
So both of us have been playing together for a while, and we've been playing a lot. And I know Daniel here picked up bass a couple years ago and learned it really fast. So maybe talk a little bit about why you wanted to learn and why you wanted to learn it so quickly too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it was really a desire to learn quickly. When I first began, it was, my little brother got a bass guitar for Christmas, and I was trying to help him put the strings on, and just ended up, playing around with it for a little while. And I kind of liked it. I've been playing piano for a long time, and had kind of plateaued myself in that, and the prospect of learning a new instrument was kind of exciting.
Yeah,
And so, just beginning to play, it was fun. It was like, there were so many new things to learn, and it was all relatively basic stuff. And just learning, functionally, how does this instrument work, and how do people play it correctly, and so it was just kind of the desire was more just to know how that aspect of music works, I suppose.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
wasn't more. It wasn't so much that I wanted to learn bass for the sake of playing bass.
Yeah.
It was just like a new avenue to understand musically.
Well, I
But I
def
guess along. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. What I was kind of thinking was, I guess one thing that helps people learn quickly, and kind of what you're talking about is inspiration behind things. And a lot of
Yeah.
people seem like they're really inspired, and I feel like that are the points where you learn the most and you kind of learn the quickest because you put a lot of time and dedication towards it. And
Yeah,
obviously,
it certainly requires that. I mean, doing something and trying to learn something that you don't care about is,
yeah,
infinitely harder.
absolutely. And obviously, we live in a time, especially getting older, where you don't have as much time on your hands. So, learning something, you want to see quick results for it, and you don't have a lot of time to spend all day practicing and things like that. So, kind of what we're
Mm.
going to be talking about today is tips and things that we can help you with to improve quicker so that you're not spending all day doing this, but still see improvements and feel good about your playing. So
Mm.
I guess one of the first points is, obviously a lot of it's all about practice, and for you to get better, you have to practice. But kind of what are you going to be practicing? And I think a lot of this has to do with having a good variety and having good content. Making sure that what you are practicing is important.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to, you learn what you see, or in this case, what you hear. So if you're exposed to a variety of music that involve a variety of techniques, you're going to be able to understand conceptually how to do, or at least how to listen to those things properly. And once you start listening to them, and kind of become exposed to listening to them in a new way, I think that's when you can apply uh, those precious moments of practice to improve those specific things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd go so far as to say that it's not even really about uh, you can get even more specific. You don't have to just listen to like a certain genre that plays the guitar a certain way or something like that.
Definitely.
You can look at a specific song, and if you have the ear for it, you can understand and sort of pick out the different details of the piece, and start trying to pick away and learn, the fundamentals of, what creates that sound, or what creates that, uh, you know, just the way that it all kind of comes together. So for instance, I got really into Rush after I started learning bass, because the bass player is such a beast. And all of the riffs he's doing are, he definitely has his own style, but there were so many different things that he was doing that
Yeah.
I was able to kind of, go through even just one album and learn really not only the basics of bass playing, but like some pretty advanced stuff too. So I guess my first tip would be to find something, either an album or an artist that kind of spans the spectrum of difficulty.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as a beginner or someone who's just sort of getting into it, you don't want to start out with something that's so terribly challenging that you can never make any progress. You need to, establish the fundamentals, and and the way to do that is to just start playing some basic stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then once you've kind of got the basics down, creating goals for yourself in terms of challenging songs. Maybe on the album there's like 2 or 3 easy ones, and then there's like 2 hard ones that that are out of your reach at the time. I think I would strongly recommend, even though you can't play them, to try them anyway.
Yeah.
And not at like full speed or anything like that, but to take it kind of slow and to to learn how to do it, not just mentally, but like, physically, as Jake, like, playing the guitar,
Oh, yeah.
you need to have a stretchy sort of left hand
Definitely.
and a right wrist that can move pretty quickly. So,
Yeah.
there are these physical elements too that you have to, take into account. And those things you can't rush too much, unfortunately,
Yeah.
because you kind of just got to let your body figure it out, I guess.
Definitely jumping off of that, I think project pieces are a great way to improve, and setting a goal for something that you said is kind of too hard for you right now, but there's parts of it that you may be able to pick out, or you may be able to play it at half speed or something like that. But especially if it's something that really inspires you, a piece that's extremely hard for you, and is maybe the reason why you started playing guitar or were inspired by like this certain piece. But I think it's really good to choose difficult pieces like that to work towards, because for one, if you're never pushing yourself and finding new challenging exercises, if you're just staying at one level, you're never going to improve. It's like with weightlifting or something. If you just keep doing curls with 5-pound weights, you're just going to plateau, and you have to improve the difficulty, improve the weight in order to really progress. And
Yeah,
I think that
precisely.
kind of goes with also in the ways that you practice. You need to be very particular and very careful about how you practice. So doing it correctly, if you're learning a new piece, you don't want to just try to play it at full speed right away and be super sloppy. You want to slow it down and be very mindful about the notes that you're playing and the timing behind it, to make sure that you're not developing a lot of bad habits, and you're not learning the song wrong. And
Yeah.
definitely like using metronomes and things like that. That's something that it's always been hard for me to use, and I'll play sloppy sometimes. But I've always noticed when I do use a metronome to learn something, kind of speed it up, I feel like I notice a really good improvement in the quality of my playing for that piece.
Certainly, certainly, yeah. I think another, main aspect of that, practicing, it's just, you want to be able to play it, at any speed, in perfect tempo,
Yeah.
perfect clarity. Like that's the goal of, learning a song per se. Uh, Learning the instrument, on the other hand, that's a whole nother animal, I guess, because
Yeah,
if you learn a
definitely.
song, like you've learned the patterns, you've learned the notes,
You,
but
you already have the
something that's
basic
actually,
techniques and stuff behind it already, but now it's just
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
the application of those techniques and all those things and music theory that you've
yeah,
learned
that's it.
before.
It's the application, right? Because you can know a song, but you may not know how to play the instrument. I think
Sure.
there's a game out there, called Rocksmith,
Yeah.
which is kind of like Guitar Hero, except you actually use like a real guitar to it's the interface that you use for the
Yeah.
game, and it can pick up the notes you play, so you can download like the I guess the tablature or the sheet music of the song, and it'll kind of play it for you,
Yeah,
but
run
you
through
have
it
to
through
hit
the
the
song.
notes. Yeah. So, you can learn how to play the song, but that doesn't mean that you can necessarily learn to play the instrument. I think that there's a very large difference, not just in terms of like, um, the skills that are presented in those songs. If there's you have to know every song in order to know how to play every type of music in that way.
Yeah,
So not only that, but just the amount of fluency you have with the instrument. That's I think the main thing for me, and also probably for you. I mean, once you hit a plateau of skill,
yeah,
and you can kind of sit down and learn any song you want to, if you have the tabs there in a few hours, you can do that. But being able to uh, create your own thing
yeah,
out of kind of just authentic creative space without any prompt, like that's where things get really tricky.
definitely.
And it really tests your actual knowledge of the instrument. So I think in terms of like quick tips, like, yeah, challenge yourself with songs. But if you're wanting to go long term in terms of like, really getting down to learning uh, the instrument on the whole, it's about uh, scales and things that
Yeah,
acquaint you with all different parts of the more nitty gritty, the more detailed parts of the instrument. Like that's really how you can get past that plateau, I think.
definitely. I know, like, for one thing, you really need to have a good variety and a good base knowledge of a lot of different stuff, and that really helps with writing and things like that. Because obviously, a lot of songs, can be really basic. You know some chords, you can maybe solo a little bit, know a couple of scales, and like you know a pretty good majority of the music. But if you're really trying to dive in deep, you need to have a good variety of stuff and different techniques, and really be practicing a lot of different stuff. So you don't just want to be practicing chords for an hour a day, but spend some time. Do chords for like 10 minutes and then work on alternate picking and downstrokes and sweep picking or tapping, and then ear training, and you know working on creating chord structures and things like that. There's a lot of different parts to playing guitar out there, or any instrument in general, that really need to be looked at, and it's not good just to focus on one, or spread yourself too thin. But every day you should try to find a couple different things to really work on and
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the weirdest part of it all is that, you know, it's often the things that you are most scared to attempt
Yeah,
that are going to be the most beneficial.
absolutely.
Uh, like for me, like I look at the bass, and I look at, how much more fluent I guess I need to be in terms of my scales, in terms of my
Yeah,
note to note, instead of just like, you know 1 4 5, sort of stuff.
yeah,
That, it's very overwhelming, I guess, knowing that there are, so many different modes of each scale, and there are, 12 of them that I need to learn.
yeah.
Understanding the note names of each fret on each string, like that's a terribly
Oh yeah,
overwhelming amount of information. But how beneficial would that be? That'd be like,
absolutely.
being able to know that stuff off the top of your head without even thinking about it. That's what creates a musician that can create, I
Yeah,
guess, is the main thing.
absolutely. And obviously,
So,
I mean, you can create things without a ton of music theory knowledge or skill. And obviously, kind of one thing that I've always thought is, for you to be the guitarist you want to be, you just need to be able to play what's in your head and interpret it to the instrument. Because obviously, some people, what they want to play isn't as technical as, shredding super fast and tapping and sweep picking and all this stuff. They may just want to play some cool chords and things like that. So, you know, different people's goals for guitar and different instruments are different depending on what they want to play. But it's very much about having the knowledge, and it's learning the alphabet before you can write. Different people
Yep.
have different things they're gonna write, and different, they can be writing books and or just short little things. But as long you have to have the backbone to be able to do that first, and that's kind of what practicing is for a lot of the time. And
Yeah. And I think early on, I was kind of wondering, when is the moment that I understand and realize that I have the backbone?
yeah,
And the only way to test that is by, I think, playing with other people.
absolutely,
Um, because there's so much that you can do on your own, at your own pace, on
yeah,
your own time. But when you have somebody that you're trying to collaborate with,
yeah,
it becomes a different sort of experience because you have to be able to, like, connect with that person on a creative level firstly, and
definitely,
then understand how to funnel that creative drive into something that makes sense, I guess, musically,
yeah. I
which is
also,
hard to do if you don't have the fundamentals, I guess.
yeah,
But it's also hard to do if you are just used to playing, like, those five songs, at your own speed,
definitely.
you
I,
know.
I
So playing with other people is like that's one of the biggest things right there.
I definitely think it's also a great way to identify where your weak points are. Because when you're playing with
Mhm.
someone and they're like, oh, we're gonna play this new scale and this new style and things like that, and you're like, wow, I don't know that, or I'm not very familiar with it, I'm not very good at it, and that's a great way to figure out kind of things that you need to work on. It may not be something that totally interests you, perhaps, but um, it's good to keep in mind those things, and also, maybe both of you guys are out of time with each other, and it's a great way just to identify flaws in your playing. And I know for both you and I, we're both self-taught, on you on bass and me on guitar, um, and I know that being self-taught, you can develop bad habits and things like that. So obviously, there's the advantage of having a professional teacher, someone to look over you. But I also think that can be you can figure out bad habits from observing other people carefully and analyzing yourself, and then just playing with other people.
Yeah, and I guess if you have, trustworthy musician friends,
Yeah,
there's always room for you know analysis from them.
yeah,
There's this, when you're playing an instrument on your own, there's a different self-awareness there. You're aware of what you're trying to make something sound like, but
definitely.
more often than not, kind of deaf to what it actually sounds like. And I
Hmm.
think either there's two ways, right? There's two ways you can remedy that. There's either A, record it and then listen to it, and then you'll actually, undeniably hear what you're playing and
Yeah,
whether you need to improve a certain part or not. Or you can play with other people and become aware of it on your own, or have them bring it up to you and say, like, hey, I think you're kind of dragging on this part, or you're missing this note consistently, things like that. Oftentimes you'll have no idea that you've been doing it wrong.
oh, definitely.
It's just the self-awareness, which I guess is so crazy. So
Yeah, you
yeah,
mentioned
and maybe
record.
that's not like a learning things fast sort of thing, but
Uh
that's
huh.
like a learning how to listen, I think. And that's, obviously music is sound, so
Yeah.
it's just a very important part.
Well, obviously, you're not just going to learn something instantly. You got to put effort and work into it, but it's a lot faster if you're learning things well and you're practicing it well rather than just kind of learning something and then just hoping that over time it'll kind of fix itself and you'll get better. And it will, over time you obviously will hopefully improve. I mean, hopefully you're always getting better at the instrument, but obviously, I've just noticed that in times when I feel like my playing has really improved is when, one, I've learned something completely new that's kind of been eye opening or really changed my style and things like that, or just really spent the time every day, not even a lot of time, but just, 20, 30 minutes or something working on something. And, I can see a really good improvement in that. And it feels really fast because you see the progress and you see it. And obviously, it's really demoralizing when you're just playing for a while and it's like, well, I don't really feel like I'm going anywhere with this. I feel like I'm exactly the same
Yeah.
as I was a few months ago.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and I think that's where you come back to, if you've conquered your challenging
yeah,
song, what next rung is there?
yeah,
So find something different. And that's why it's nice to be exposed to a variety of things, because you can be unaware that there's something cool out there. And I think, stylistically, I think this is a more distinct for bass, I guess,
sure,
because there's things like slap bass that are like,
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
it may as well just be a different instrument
yeah,
because it's
there's
so
completely
fundamentally
different
different.
styles and sounds that you can get out of bass. I mean, there's a lot of that with guitar too, but definitely with slap bass and things like that, it's so
Yeah,
different
like
than
if you're listening to rock, like you're not going to encounter a lot of slap
yeah,
bass, so you've got to dig deep and just kind of be exposed to a different, just different stuff. So, along with different genres comes different difficulty and things like that.
definitely.
Um, and I think also I wanted to touch on one other thing. The point at which you can say you've learned something,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's a tricky sort of gray area. However, I think the the best way to test whether you've really learned something is to try to teach it to somebody else.
absolutely.
Um, because you have to describe it in detail. You have to demonstrate it. You have to explain why things are the way they are. So that really tests not only your informational knowledge of the subject, but also your functional knowledge, your ability to demonstrate and to perform, I guess, is the main thing.
Yeah,
So, um, you'd never want to trust a teacher that can't do what he's trying to teach you, I guess,
exactly. Yeah,
is one of those things. So, um, so yeah, that I feel like, the interacting with other people component, not only playing with them, but teaching other people,
yeah,
those are like, that's the goal right there. Like that's an aspiring musician's, goal, I
definitely.
think.
I mean, yeah, music is something that's made to be shared and listened to among other people, so you should be playing with other people too. I mean, that may
Mhm.
not be something that everyone can do, and you may not have a bunch of friends who play music like you, but those times are very valuable when you can play with other people, especially who are good musicians and who are better than you, who can push you to learn new things and try harder. And
Yeah.
that's one of the greatest skills that you can learn with it. But
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you can always just go to Guitar Center and put your name on that board that's like guitarist searching for,
it's true.
bass player
Yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah,
That's how
online.
that's how people meet up and start bands.
Yeah,
So
you got to put
like
yourself out there for that kind of stuff.
plunge.
Yeah, well, any other closing thoughts you have about this?
I think my main, you know, on a human to human level, if you are trying to learn guitar and you're feeling stuck, just do not give up.
Yeah,
This is like a dream that many people have, and it's a seemingly unconquerable feat to just be able to play guitar. But if there's one thing to drill home, it's just don't give up and just keep playing every day. You may not be where you want to be at this moment, but if you continue, you will inevitably, reach that point, and it feels very good to be at that point eventually. So
definitely.
keep striving for it.
Yep. Well, wise words to end on. Thank you guys for tuning in and have a great day.